Well, good evening, good evening, good evening. I want to welcome you to tonight's Bible study. My apologies. I see you, truck driver. Good evening to you. So much mad love to you, truck. That's my Mufasa right there. One reason the Bishop of Twitch is right here. Good to see you, Bishop. KB Browns, there's my brother. Come on in here and happy Saturday evening to you. My apologies for being a little tardy, but power was down. So had to figure that out real quick, fast and in a hurry. But glad to have the restoral of power, and here we are. Thank you for coming. I am your spiritual thought leader, Regina L. Stillman, and we are walking through the Bible, word on fire from Genesis to Revelation. We're doing it in chronological order. So welcome this evening. I'm so glad that you're here, and thank you for your patience. I know some of you may have been wondering what's going on, and I was wondering what was going on myself. But nonetheless, it's good to be here. We're going to go right on into the word. As we shared on yesterday, I think one of the last things we were talking about was to find a spiritual counsel that can be a significant part of your journey for mentorship, for coaching, for accountability. The scripture says, in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. So that's where we left off on yesterday, with Jethro giving counsel to his son-in-law, Moses. And that's where we left. Now, at the end of the day, as we come in on this evening, we're going to we're on February the 8th. And as I told you all, in this area right here, there's just about a one chapter difference between Reese's chronological and the Tyndale chronological, 1 year chronological Bible. So today I'm actually going from, in these last few days, I've been going from Reese's chronological. So if you look at February the 8th, I believe that's the right date. We're going to look at a few things. We're talking about time spent at Sinai, or Sinai, whichever you want to say, also known as Horeb, Horeb, Horeb. This is around approximately June of the year. So this is where we are, the fifth dispensation of law. And I'm just reading through the Reese chronological notes here so you can follow along. The giving of the law was trip one. They spent some time there at Sinai. So you see trip one, if you look at item number one, giving of the law, covenant reviewed, and the preliminary instructions that were given to the children of Israel. And we're starting in the 19th chapter of Exodus. Then we see Moses preparing Israel for meeting with God. For those of you that remember that story, we'll touch on that very briefly as well. Moses refrains Israel from the mountain. That's the third trip that he takes. That we have estimated around June the 5th. And then the commandments given. And then tomorrow we will get to that fourth trip, the instructions for the altar. Then we start, as we see, we're going on. Once the law has been given, we start going on into how to prepare for worship. So I want to start here in the 19th chapter, and I'm just putting that up. Let's see. I don't know if I scrolled that forward where you all could see it. Let me get that up. If not, and then tomorrow we'll do the February the 9th. Now, so that being said, let's take a look at the word of the Lord. In the third month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they unto the wilderness of Sinai. For they were departed from Rephidim and were come to the desert of Sinai and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mount. And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called out unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now, therefore, if you will obey my voice, and I think we may have touched on this a little bit on yesterday, and keep my covenant, then shall ye be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. Now, I just want to kind of stop and deal with that little segment right there. As God is speaking to Moses out of the mountain and begins to, you hear some verbiage that we hear echoed later on in the New Testament. We're royal, we're a peculiar people. All of these things we start seeing how they are spoken and shared even in the Old Testament. So we begin to talk about a peculiar treasure. And I like to tell people, it doesn't say that we're strange. I know a lot of times that is uh, uh, what I want to say, the adjective that gets associated with us many times is that the people are strange. He said peculiar, and I tend to take issue. I feel like there's an issue between peculiarity and somebody that's strange. Hello. So I embrace totally the idea that I am a peculiar people, and I love how he put it here in Exodus 19, a peculiar treasure. Ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people. Now, this we start getting into some of the ideas of having a love for this group over another group. I am one of those that I'm going to always maintain that God is no respecter of person. What they are different in is that they were the heritage and the nation by which Jesus Christ was born. The deliverer, the Messiah, the Savior came through the lineage which made them different from everybody else. I like to get into that point because, I've said this before, anybody that's known me for any sense of length of time, this whole idea that I've got the favor of God and you don't. I don't personally espouse to that because I feel, again, that God is no respecter of person. Even for those of us that are walking circumspectly, yes, there are blessings that come, but those blessings are cause and effect. If you ask me, there is, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if you're doing negative and destructive things, that's what you're going to yield. That's what you're going to get back. Now, as I said on yesterday, and I know I shared this at length, it rains on the just as well as the unjust. So everybody's going to get rain. Everybody's going to have mountain tops. Everybody's going to have valley peaks. Everybody's going to go through different areas and different terrains and different seasons because that's just life. But when you start getting into, for me, when you start getting into almost like kennel rishing, my dog's better than your dog. My dog's better because he eats kennel rishing. Everyone, KB Browns, everyone. And so I take issue with that type of energy because I feel like that's the same energy that creates supremacy and racism. That's exactly where it comes from. This idea that I'm better than you, this idea that I'm, whatever negativity is associated with that. And I go, KB Browns, that everyone, we're all on an equal plane. And the peculiarity that is ascribed and the chosen people that is given to Israel, to me, is the lineage of Christ. So I make that differentiation. Some of you choose differently, and that's fine. When I listen to church folks running around and talking about they've got the favor of God like others do not. We all are children of God. We all have God's favor, and again, consequences to behaviors and cause and effect. To me, is a lot of the difference, and it's not necessarily because God favors you over somebody else. In my opinion, you don't have to embrace that ideology. That's just the way I feel because I do not believe that God favors anybody over anybody else. I really don't. Just the equity, the justice, the fairness of God, that part. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. Now, here we hear again a holy nation. We talk about a royal priesthood, a holy nation. We start seeing this all the way back in Genesis, and it is echoed again over in the New Testament. I just want to make that point because what I'm saying is God says the same thing continuously. The same yesterday, today, and forevermore. That energy that God has towards us is that we will be a peculiar, and again, I like the treasure, a peculiar treasure, that we are a holy nation. and that royal priesthood. It just keeps echoing on and on and on. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, all that the Lord has spoken, we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. Now, you all know how it's going to go here in a minute, where the people are going to start grumbling against Moses having connection and fellowship with God, and we want to hear him for ourselves. So we understand that this is going to develop as time goes on. But at this point, Moses is that intermediary that's going back and forth and carrying the word of the Lord to the people, and the people, what they say back to the Lord. And the Lord said unto Moses, lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear what I speak with when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto the Lord. Now, I want to say this. I always encourage people, if you ever get a chance, go to the Great Smokies. Go to the Great Smokies. It was someplace I was going on a regular basis every year up until the time of COVID. Actually had it booked for that year, but because of COVID, they canceled, and that was the last time I've been. But when you start talking about, behold, I come to thee in a thick cloud, this is what I experienced, and I'm telling you, it just blew my mind. It was, I had an epiphany. I had an experience that was just mind blowing. When I went to the Great Smokies, the clouds, when I got all the way to the very top, and it just so happened it was a Sunday, and that Sunday happened to be my birthday that year. So I decided I wanted to go to the very peak top of the Great Smokies as far as you could drive. Now there's more even higher than that, but you have to get there by wire on a tram, whatever, what they call those little things that go up further on the mountain by cable. But as far as driving, I went to the very top of the mountain. And when I tell you that thick cloud, you could barely see and make out. If you put your hand in front of you, you could barely see an image that was there. You couldn't see people walking. You couldn't see cars. It was just that thick. I went early in the morning because I wanted to commune with God early on my birthday. And when I tell you, that was nothing less than a spiritual experience and a manifestation of God and his presence in the thick cloud of smoke. And I thought about, as I was standing there in the Great Smokies, I thought about how Moses must have felt as he stood in that thick cloud, engaging with God. And it was so deeply spiritual. That was the thing that made me start going every year. When I tell you, I came down off of that mountain. Moses, every time he came back, his countenance had changed. And his countenance, people almost couldn't look upon him because the shine, the Bible said he shone, S-H-O-N, but that glow, that essence of the glory of God that was just all over him. As we would say, the Shekinah glory was all over him till the people actually could not stand. When I tell you, when I came down off of that mountain, when I finally did leave, you talk about the glory and the presence of God in that thick cloud. And this is the thing that I liked about it too. And I've tried to describe this to people. You could actually feel the touch of the cloud on your skin. Woo! I'm just thinking about it. You could actually feel, it was almost like, ooh, I just don't even know how to describe that sensation. It was the thick cloud, but it wasn't that. It was just looked at. You could feel it. Your senses were alive to it. And so when I think about Moses and God having this encounter, I tell people all the time, listen, we may not be in the Holy Land, but if you ever get a chance, wherever my feet stand on is holy ground. But nonetheless, it's just that whole element of, if you ever here in the United States don't get a chance to travel to the Holy Land, but you can get on top of that mountain when the smoke is down. And I begin to think, even from that, Can you imagine what the Native Americans and the indigenous peoples of the land, when that smoke would come down on the mountain, what that must have felt like, what that encounter must have entailed? I'm telling you, it's transformative. It is literally just the thick cloud of the smoke. When I tell you, standing there and putting my hand like this, and I can't see my hand in front of me, but I can feel all of this. It was almost like I was completely engulfed from head to toe in the presence of God. I'm just like, oh my God. If you ever get a chance to go, I encourage you to do so. But that's what I equate, and it may not even be into the extent of what Moses was experiencing with the Lord on Mount Horeb, or Mount Sinai, as many of you call it. So I can just, the nature of God. There's something about nature, you all. If you ever find yourself in a press, if you ever find yourself in a state where it seems like you just can't tap in, I'm telling you, if you just go out and commune with some element of nature, I'm telling you, because God in his awesomeness, in his greatness, in his splendor will begin to speak to you out of that like nothing else can. So I read that today, and it immediately takes me to that thought. And the Lord said unto Moses, go into the people and sanctify them. Sanctify means to set apart. Sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. So we're cleaning and we're sanctifying. Now, so many of you know that there is a doctrine of sanctification for some denominations, not all, and that doctrine of sanctification deals with the cleansing, the cleaning up, and the being set apart. You're being cleaned, and as he said, I want you to go and have them wash their clothes. It's a washing of the mind. It's a washing of your emotions. It's a washing and a cleansing of your heart. It's a washing. And then not just to be clean, but the idea is to be set apart for the use of the Lord, to be set apart for the use of the Lord. Now, even in the washing for a purpose, exactly, KB Browns, washing for a purpose. Now, I like to even, and I do, as far as my personal background, I do come from a background that teaches the doctrine of sanctification. So, you know, I make no apologies for it. It bleeds through, but I do believe that there is something, even as I was talking on the last couple of days about preparing ourselves to be inhabited by God as a holy habitation unto the Lord. There is something about cleaning yourself up, cleaning up your, and at the end of the day, I equate it to a natural process of cleansing and sanctification. Just like anything else, if you wear your clothes 5 days in a row, it's going to start to smell. If you never go and take a bath and never take a shower, you're going to become fragrant. And it's not necessarily a fragrance that the people are going to enjoy. There's an odor that goes along with not being cleansed, as well as an odor that goes along with being cleansed. When you smell somebody that is nice and fresh and they come out of the shower and you can smell that fragrance that's emitted from them, and you just want to, come on, hello, truck driver, there's an aroma that's going to come. Either sanctified or unsanctified, you're going to put off an aroma. So at the end of the day, this is the same that I contribute in your thoughts about the spiritual realm. There's an aroma when we talk about God, and he's that sweet smelling savor that we are to be to him. I take that into that place of, I've taken time to prepare myself. I've taken time to say, hey, I want the presence of God to dwell in me, and I want the dwelling place of God to be prepared and the absolute best that I can give it. I don't want him to walk in and you smell. I went somewhere today, as a matter of fact, and everybody that walked in the door was like, ooh, it stinks in here. It stinks in here. And you know, I hate to say this, but I almost feel like when God comes in, many of our sanctuaries, or I'm not even talking about the church as a sanctuary. I'm talking about prepare me as a sanctuary. I feel and fear that when God comes into many of our sanctuaries in this day and time, he walks in and it's like, ooh, it stinks in here. Oh, it stinks in here. And they went around and they started spraying air freshener and this and that and the other. But guess what? We were in the space for about 10 or 15 minutes. And guess what? There was a breakthrough of the stink again. Come on here, talk truck driver. I'm telling you. And so I'm saying to us, this is why I'm encouraging you. Relationship, not just going through religious motions and calisthenics, but I'm saying let's begin to sanctify and cleanse ourselves so that we can be set apart for the use and the purpose of God, not only for habitation, but to be utilized. You tell me and show me one person that wants to pick up a dirty fork that somebody else, a dirty spoon, dirty eating utensils that somebody else has utilized, and you want to come in and pick them up and start using them again. No, I need you to sanctify. I need you to cleanse thoroughly and set it apart for use. I want clean utensils. I want clean clothes. Come on here. I don't want to be dirty and then put clean clothes on top of dirty flesh. I want us to come into a place of relationship. So come on, stay lifted. I want us to come into a place of relationship where we understand, God, when you come in my presence and you're talking about you are looking and desiring a sweet smelling savor. And when you smell me, what you get is something putrid to your nostrils. That's not what I came to give you. I came to give you a fragrance that is pleasing, that is desirous, that you understand something that, and listen, there are some people, you just like to be where they are because they smell good. And then I'm gonna tell you what, even when I was on the island, they had some different fragrances and I went and I was smelling them. And I said, because I like that when somebody walks past you and they leave a sweet smelling savor. You know what I'm saying? When that aroma that they leave in the wake of their walking, they've already gone and they've already passed by. But that whiff, that's what I want God to get when he comes in. I am in his presence. I want him to get even the after whiff. I want him to get the after smell. This comes from what I believe and call the sanctification, where God said to them, I want you to have them wash their clothes. I want you to begin to prepare and sanctify them for my presence and for my visitation. This is what I want us to look at and begin to say, when we as a people begin to offer this to the Lord instead of, and as I said earlier, I'm mighty afraid that when God comes in our sanctuaries too many times, what he gets is BO. What he gets is stink and stank. And we can do better. We can do better. Come on. We can do better with a made up mind. Make a determination. When God encounters me, what does he smell? Come on here. Am I talking to anybody? When God encounters me, what does he smell? Is it that aroma and fragrance that is sweet smelling in his nostrils? Is that what my life, is that what my being, my temple, my habitation, is that what I'm giving to God? So God, but in this phase right here, God's teaching them this. We're now coming into a relationship. So God's giving them instructions of law. God's giving them, now understand, the law is a schoolmaster. We use the law for children until they get grown and mature enough to not have to use the law. What do you mean when you say that? And you all possibly have heard me give this analogy. When a baby or a toddler is young, they have a law. Don't touch the stove. Don't touch the stove. But when they're 15, 18, and 20 years old, baby, if you want to eat, I need you to touch the stove. When you come into a place of maturity, when you come into a place of development where you can handle the stove, when you can maneuver around the stove and the stove is no longer dangerous to you, the stove is no longer of detriment to you, but the stove becomes a tool. That law of don't touch the stove is only a schoolmaster as long as you're in that state of immaturity. Once you have moved into a place of maturity, you no longer need that law. That law amends itself and changes. And then we come even to the point where we understand that Jesus is the fulfillment of the law. So what we could not do, in that the law was weak in the flesh, understand that Jesus came and he took care of that for us. But we see God giving them instructions on how to come into his presence and how to commune, how to have that ability to come one-on-one. Now, we still got an intermediary, because right now Moses is that intermediary. In the Old Testament, we had the prophets, we had the priests, we had all of these different ones who were the intermediaries. But when the veil in the temple was rent in two, when Jesus was hanging on the cross and gave up the ghost, and the veil in the temple was torn in two, the middle wall of petition was taken away. And now we can come boldly to the throne of grace. But we're still going through a process now. We're learning. We're learning processes. I'm trying to get us to understand processes. And so at the end of the day, when we get to the understanding that in these days and times, we've almost thrown all the processes out the window. We've thrown all of the processes out the window, or they're so minimally talked about. I can tell you about prosperity. I can tell you about getting a house. I can talk to you about getting a husband or a wife. I can talk to you about getting material things. I can hear a teaching on all of those things, but we don't necessarily hear process. We don't necessarily hear, before you come before the presence of the Lord, can you sanctify yourselves? Can you clean yourself up? Can you, and again, it's not that matter of getting into religious doctrines and this and that and the other, but understanding I want to give God a prepared habitation. I'm not just going to give God some junk. I'm not going to give God foul smelling odors and then say, oh, inhabit that, Lord, inhabit. No, it's foul. Some of this that we are presenting to God is just straight up, plain and simple foul, putrid. And at the end of the day, because we've not had the teaching, because we've not had the understanding, it doesn't tickle our ears. It doesn't make us happy. It doesn't put us on cloud nine like you about to get a new car. It doesn't put us on cloud nine like whoever. Now listen, y'all, and if I got to give you $1,000 to get 10,000 back, stop. Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. At the end of the day, all these things that we hear and are being taught and are having demonstrated in front of us, but we haven't gone back to just basic things like sanctification before the Lord, a holy nation, a peculiar treasure. And I'm going to keep using that. I know over in the New Testament, a peculiar people, but I love in this passage in the 19th chapter of Exodus, when God says a peculiar treasure. You are a treasure to me. I'm telling you, this is what God has given us. Wouldn't we want to give God our very best? Wouldn't we want to give God a sweet smelling savor? Wouldn't we want to come before the Lord cleaned and cleansed and ready and set apart to be used for God's service, to be used for, and when I say that, I'm even just talking about, can I get somebody that looks like somebody I can look up to? Can I get somebody that is, we talked about this on yesterday when we were talking about having those counsel, godly counsel, and people that we can attach to as mentors, as coaches, as accountability. It's like we can't find anybody anywhere. On the drive to the sanctuary, am I preparing myself instead of preparing myself when inside of it? Come on here, KB, talk to me. Talk to me. Crazy Berrytown, we talking up in here. So much love. I want us to have these kind of concepts because I'm a spiritual thought leader. Everything else that's out there, everybody is doing and sharing from what their gifting and what their calling is. I'm called to bring us into spirituality. I'm called to bring us into a spiritual mind. I'm called to bring us into a spiritual journey, not religiosity, not denominationalism, not even faith based on this, that I am called to bring us into relationship with God. Relationship and spirituality that transcends all of these different trappings that really, this is what I'm going to tell you, when you get into areas where you have, come on, Dr. Dady, I'm trying to teach, when we have these areas that are constantly tearing down and dividing and destructive and negative, and listen, that is not the spirit of Christ. But as we begin to understand and cleanse ourselves even from that, can I cleanse myself from my own biases? Can I cleanse myself from my own ideologies and my own theologies that are not in alignment with the love of God, but I've taken it on, and sometimes we don't even know where you got it from. You didn't necessarily get it from church, but you just created something in your mind and then begin to operate in negative energy towards other people. But the one thing I will tell you, you can always, always, always know if it's of God, if it is rooted and grounded and comes from love. If it's anything outside of that, I promise you, I don't care how good it sounds. I don't care how long it's been the tradition and the doctrine and the teaching. If it is lacking love, it's not of God. Plain and simple. That's all I can say. That's the best way I can describe it. And so as we come into even this idea of sanctification, I'm cleansing my mind, my heart, my thoughts, all of my energy. I'm cleansing all of that. Why? Because I want to be used of God. Even if I'm just a city set on a hill that cannot be hidden. If it's just a matter of me letting my light so shine before men so they can see, glorify our Father and see those good works that God is doing through us. If it's just that matter of just being, just be. And allow your being. And that's one of the things I wanted, your spirituality. When you get back to who God created you to be, not the not-for-profit conglomerate disorganization that you have become because of life's challenges. But I'm telling you, when you get back to your created self, that to me, we're talking spirituality. When you get back to your created self, in other words, what God had in mind for you when he created you. Come on, Dr. Dady, I think you said something. Let me scroll back. They'll know that we are Christians by our love. And that's it right there. They will know that we have a relationship with God because the love of God flows from us richly. Not oh, and we're not picking and choosing who I'm going to love. We love everybody. We embrace. So this is the place where I'm saying, when we look at the Lord saying, I want you to be ready. I want you to be prepared. And it's not just religiosity. Please hear me. But I wanted to stop tonight and deal with this concept of sanctification. Also, while we're on that topic, let's say this, because listen, this whole idea that I'm going to separate myself. The two greatest commandments, love God and love the people, KB Browns, in a nutshell. Love God and love the people. That's it right there. So as we look at the reality of sanctification even, this is what I understand, because some of us have this idea now. I don't know if you all even know what a curio cabinet is, but back in the olden days in the country, we had curio cabinets and they'd have the glass in it and all of the special things, the dishes that you couldn't eat off of, all of the special, the crystal, and it was going to be in the curio. So at the end of the day, prepare to meet God with an undivided heart and mind. Come on in here, Dalen. You better talk to me. So at the end of the day, we had the curio. Now, this is, and I'm still on sanctification because we understand we're cleansed and set apart, as KB Brown said, for a purpose. Not just to be, but for a purpose. But this is the thing. Those curios would be, you have one, KB Browns? Come on. I had one all while I was growing up. Every place I went, except for when I got to my own home, I didn't. That's the only place I haven't had a curio, but I want one. I just don't have the space. But this was the thing about the curio cabinet. You put those beautiful dishes in there, but you still had to pull them out every now and again because guess what? Even in the curio cabinet, they collect dust. So if you, and so what are you saying? So I want you to understand even about sanctification. It's not just for you to go someplace and sit and look pretty. Hear me. It's not for you to be on display, because I feel like some of us, that's what we think our spiritual journey is about, to go someplace and sit and be on display and sit and look pretty. And or I'm not going to get out there and do this or that and the other because I don't want to get myself dirty. I don't want to. Your auntie keeps her silver and dishes wrapped in not saran wrap. Dr. Dady. Not the saran wrap dishes in silver. Listen, you have to be ready to work, truck driver. Because guess what? There is a fountain. And that fountain filled with blood drawn from Emmanuel's veins. Listen, sinners plunge beneath the flood and lose all their guilt and say, you can go back and wash up again. Do you understand the words that you can wash those dishes again? I got to the point where I looked at people and I'm like, you have all of this beautiful china. I'll take some of my four grandparents, and so they never used those dishes. And I looked and I said to myself, you have all of this beauty, you have all of this wealth, but you never use it because it's just for display. That is not the journey that we have. And even as I tell you, you're not just for display. As Truck said, you got to be ready to go out there and work. You got to be ready to be used as a vessel and as a tool. You got to be ready to go out there and do what it is that God created you to do. And there is something that God has given you to do. Please believe that. So when you go out and just be who God made you to be, don't try to be Sally, don't try to be Jim, don't try to be Billy Bob, don't try to be Jane. Go out there and be who God created you to be. And that is the power and the glory and the splendor of you being yourselves and being yourselves, knowing that I've cleansed myself. I'm not asking somebody to purchase a curio cabinet to sit me inside of there and put me on display so I can look pretty for the people. And oh, child, I'm too clean for that. Jesus went in with the harlots. Jesus went in with the wine bibbers. Jesus went in with the prostitutes and the drunkards. Jesus went in with the gamblers. Jesus went in with all the folk that everybody else didn't want to be bothered with. And at the end of the day, you got to understand, I can go in and handle the dirty stuff without becoming dirty myself. I said something right there. Please, please, please hear what I just said. You can go in and handle the dirty stuff without becoming dirty yourself. And at the end of the day, even if you get some dirt on you, you still have a shower. You still have a fountain. You still have the ability to cleanse again. So there's nothing that we have to be afraid of, frightful of. Oh, I can't. I just am too scared. No. I need you, as Truck said, God needs us to be sanctified with purpose so we can do the work. John 9:4. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night comes when no man can work. You better talk to me, KB Browns. We have a purpose in this world. And the question begs to be answered, are you fulfilling your purpose? Now, while you're talking about and doing all these other things, do not forget your spirituality. As a matter of fact, I'm going to suggest you need to make your spirituality, in my opinion, you don't have to agree with me, but in my opinion, you need to make your spirituality your number one. All of these other things that we're chasing after, all of these other trappings that we are excited to have, I'm going to tell you one of the things that I really, really, really want you to get is that ability to go out and understand I am here in this body, but I am a spirit. Listen, my spirit, which came from God, is in this clay dirt body, and my soul, come on, I'm here with purpose. I'm here by divine assignment. I'm here because God has a calling and a purpose on my life. You can get everything else in alignment, but if your spirituality is off, you are off. You hear what I said? You can get everything else in your life into some level of alignment. And I'm going to really challenge you as to whether it's in real alignment or not. But nonetheless, you can get this, that, and the other. But if your spirituality is off, you are off. There's just something about when you come into this spiritual space that it will recharge you, it will renew you, it will revive you, it will reinvigorate you, it will recreate you, it will give you your creative juices. And I just want you to always put that in the forefront of your mind. Where am I at in this process spiritually? We've come to the Mount of Sinai, or the Mount of Horeb. And now as we are coming into and hearing the voice of God and coming into and experiencing the presence of God, that thick smoke, I want to know, where are you in your preparation to be able to have that communion that God wants to have with you? That's spirituality, folks. Just you and God communing with each other. Just you and God having conversation and fellowship and relationship with one another. Just you and God intimately engaged and involved with it. Can be done. And I'm saying, and I'm believing, in these days and times, we got to do it. We've got to do it. We've got to do it. That's part of what has gotten us here. And that's okay, because we got here by divine assignment and by divine purpose. But now that we're here, we've got something to do. We've got to get ourselves into a place of spiritual relationship with God. I believe that with all my heart. And I believe that those of us that tap in, I believe that those of us that will sanctify ourselves, and that's what I wanted to touch on tonight. I wanted to deal with that, just that one part right there. Those of us that will sanctify ourselves. Come on, stay lifted. I really do. I believe that with all my heart. I believe for such a time as this, we've been called to the kingdom. I really do. I really do. For such a time as this. Listen, I feel the energy and the spirit of Esther on me so heavily. For such a time as this, I've been called to the kingdom. Because listen, the gallows are out there, but the deliverance of God is greater than the gallows. And as we come boldly, what did Esther say? If I perish, let me perish. I ain't scared. I'm not scared. I know that I've come to the kingdom for such a time as this. And we are here in a season when it looks like the government, because that's exactly what Esther was dealing with, when it seems like the government has set its energy to destroy a whole nation of people. It's like, listen, no, not so. come on, Dr. Dady, I've come to the kingdom for such a time as this. Woo, am I talking to anybody? This is where we are right now. And I'm not saying that with dread and with, matter of fact, I want to tell y'all, stop being fearful, stop being scared, stop sitting here and shaking in your boots. This is exactly and precisely the place that God wants us to be, to show up and show out. This is precisely the place, but this is why I'm telling you, I need you to be sanctified. Don't go out there funky. Don't go out there smelling. Don't go out there putrid. Don't go out there raggedy and haggard. Don't go out there looking like something the cat drug in. Come on here. Am I talking to anybody? Don't go out. I need you to prepare the habitation of your sanctuary. We were talking about that today in church at I Serve conference. Come on. The theme of it was tap in. I love it, KB. I love it. Sanctification requires one to be positional, progressive, and ultimately focused on developing a personal relationship with spirituality. Come on, Dalen, you better talk to me up in here. Sanctification requires it. And again, as I said earlier, this is a process. And this is a part of the process that we have completely omitted in 2025. We have completely, it's like, hey, you don't have to be, listen, I need you to clean yourself up. And when I say that again, I'm not talking about religiosity. I'm not talking about doctrines and theologies. I'm talking about getting relationship. And this is what I'm going to tell you. God will tell you exactly what he wants you to clean up and where in your life. Because it's not one size fits all. For all of those that believe that in error, it's not one size fits all. God deals with me individually because he knows everything. He knows my ins, my outs, my ups, my downs, my thoughts. He knows everything about me. He caters to me. Y'all ain't ready for me. Y'all not ready. He caters to me as he caters to you. He's no respecter of person. He caters to you as well. But so many times we've embraced this Dolly. Y'all remember they got the sheep and called her Dolly because they had cloned her. We've got this clone mentality and this clone ideology and definitely a clone religion that at the end of the day, everybody comes out looking the same. And the Lord is like, no, that's not the way I deal with you. I deal with you one-on-one. I deal with you individually. I'm going to tell you to clean this for you. Because listen, my feet might stink, but your armpits might be funky. So, he's going to deal with your armpits. He's going to deal with my feet. Am I talking to anybody? And now I know I done got really, really, but I'm just trying to break this thing down so you can see it. He's going to deal with the area that you have that needs attention. Hello. The area that you have that needs to be addressed. So that's the way God deals with us. So the relational side is where we get our marching orders. What do I need to clean up? Yes, everything needs to be addressed. I'm not omitting that, but some of y'all know it's that left armpit, not the right one. It's the left armpit that needs special attention. Am I talking to anybody? It's that, listen, everything else can be copacetic, but it's that left armpit that's going to still be cutting up. And so the Lord says, I need you to sanctify that left armpit. Am I talking to anybody? So at the end of the day, that relationship, not to mention those with, not the halitosis. Come on in here, Bishop. Yes, the halitosis needs to be addressed. But let God speak to you in the sanctification process. Because listen, the last thing you want, one reason, is you out here trying to let your light shine and they can't see nothing because everything's dimmed by your halitosis. Sanctify. Cleanse it. Take care of whatever it is. And God knows your specific area. Come on here. And it's not for your embarrassment. It's not for your humiliation. It's not because God doesn't want you to enjoy and experience A, B, C, D, E, F, and G from A prime to Z prime and back again. It's not that. God wants to have that sweet smelling savor that has impact. I want us to be impactful in this. We've lost, can I say this? And I really do believe this. In the season in which we are living right now, we've lost our impact and we've lost our influence. Come on, I'm talking about in spirituality. We've lost our impact and we've lost our influence. They ain't paying us no attention. Listen, huh? They because of the way we run out here and this whole it's sad, but it's true. It's true. We've lost our influence and we've lost our impact. And it just is. It just is. But this is the season that there's a restoration. Restoration has finally come. This is a season of restoration. If we would just heed and pay attention. And with that, I think oh Lord, I'm over my time. It goes back to the presentation concept you spoke of a couple of weeks. Come on here. And even as Dalen gave us that word, let me go back and pull it out because one reason typed it for me and she did too. And at the end of the day, we talk about presentation. Are you actually sharpening the gifts and the tools that God has given you? Are you dealing with your shine? And Dalen said things that are lustrous, because everybody wants to shine. Things that are lustrous require lots of work, because we were talking about patina. If you remember, we were talking about things that will patina. Things that are lustrous require lots of work, dedication, and time. Not everybody is willing to go the distance. That presentation, Dr. Dady, that presentation. Hello. God has so much that can be manifested through us. But I'm telling you, we've got to go back and begin to embrace processes. You don't just go from zero, the basement, to the penthouse with no steps and no floors in between. There's a process. There's a process. So as we're going through this time, process over outcome. Come on here, Dr. Dady. Come on and give us that good word. Process over outcome. We've got to follow the process. And it's so much of the process. At this point, I don't even think the people know, because again, they don't hear about that. They hear about cars. They hear about jobs. They hear about money. They hear about a mate. They hear about everything but the process. And then we wonder why we have no impact and we have no influence. It's our time. It is our time. It really, really is. Now with that, because it's already after 7 o'clock, so I'm past my time, but I appreciate those of you that came in, and thank you for your indulgence and allowing me to go over. I want to say this is my time to stop and appreciate Truck Driver. I see you. That's my Mufasa in here. One Reason, the Bishop of Twitch. That's my bishop right there. KB Brown, so much mad love to you. Thank you for coming in the stream tonight. I appreciate you so much. Stay lifted 2021. That's the lifter of my head, and truly you are. Coming on down, and Dalen is in here. So much mad love to you, Dalen. Crazy Berrytown. Crazy Berrytown. I haven't said that in a long time, but sis, it's so good to see you in here. Nothing but mad love to you. Dr. Dady Priest is in the house. Mad love to you as well. Coming on down. I don't want to miss anybody that's potentially in here. I don't want to. If I have overlooked you, it's only because I missed seeing you when I was scrolling down. But I'm so glad that you're here. You're always welcome in this stream. There's always mad love for you. As I say, when I start the teaching, we continue with the teaching just so we don't break rank and keep breaking up the train of thought. But I always like to come back and just say thank you because you are welcome here. And I do appreciate you being here. Everybody that's in this chat and everybody that is watching this and is not in my chat. And for those that will watch it on demand, I appreciate you for being here. So yesterday we talked about finding that coach. We talked about finding godly counsel. We talked about that accountability and someone that can give you counsel, good counsel, and delegating and relegating. Today I want to leave you with that idea of sanctification. And I hope this has helped you. I hope that this has blessed you in some way. I love everybody that's in here. Coming down, make sure I didn't miss anybody. I see Rubber Dub Dub. What y'all got going on? Y'all ain't no telling what y'all saying in here. But at the end, I'm going to get my Dial soap. I knew you said something, KB Browns. I'm going to get my Dial soap right now. Cleaning time daily. And that's the thing that I do. Thank you for that. And as hilarious as my brother is, that's a point of order. You got to do it daily, folks. Just like you take a shower, just like you take a bath or a wash up, whatever it is, you understand that your body needs attention every day. So does your spiritual. Your spirit man needs attention. Your spiritual needs attention every day. Cleanse it, purify it, get it ready, set it apart. Because as I said, even about those dishes in the curio, after they sit there for 15, 20 years, they're dusty and dirty again. Even though they never came out of the curio cabinet, even though nobody handled them or whatever the case may be, the longer they sat, the more dust they picked up. And you can't just take them out to Curio and start using them. They're going to have to see some sanctification and some water in there before anybody can use them again. All right? So just take this thought with you. Facts all day long, KB Browns. Facts all day long. The same way you cleanse your natural man, please make sure and cleanse your spiritual man as well. I love you guys. I really, really do. Because listen, we on our way somewhere and something is happening up in here. And I love what I see happening in and through you. I love you guys. I always like to close. Peace for your journey.